Today I'll be doing a little sketching session with just one colored pencil. Just want to keep things really straightforward for myself this afternoon. And I'll be drawing out a couple of girls and flowers. Very solid drawing subject, for me at least. And I start out by drawing a little human within a simple border, just so I can get the border out of the way really quick and kind of just already set a limitation for myself when I'm drawing, just to give myself a bit of peace of mind. Because whenever I draw freehand and I don't have a border already preset, things just doesn't work out too great. Let's just say that. So since today I am just doing some simple doodles from imagination, I just kind of drew upon whatever was going through my mind that afternoon. And for this afternoon, I was thinking of the days when I used to come back home from school when I was younger, and I would just be really tired. And I would sit by my window, and because of the direction of my window and the time of day, the afternoon sunlight would come in streaming pretty strongly. And that was it was a really nice time. I would just kind of luxuriate in it for a hot minute before I would have to get back to work. But yeah, because the sun was shining in that same window and I was feeling a little nostalgic, I decided to draw somebody who would be sitting in the same kind of pose that I would, right by that window, just relaxing for a nice chill afternoon. I recently did some chair studies because sometimes I want to draw people in chairs and then I realize the only kind of chair that I know how to draw is very, very simple. So I decided to draw different styles of chairs, and I drew like this kind of rattan chair, and it's very nostalgic for me. It reminds me a lot of my grandmother's bedroom, where I used to hang out a lot of the time. I was debating a bit on what sort of pose I should put her in, but yeah, whenever I freehand these things, it's very hard for me to, even when I already have a plan, to stick to that plan, because I think to myself, it actually would be nicer if I put this person in this pose instead. And then that throws off all of my other plans that I had to balance out the composition. For example, here I didn't intend to draw somebody painting her nails, but in the end I did. Then I just kind of had to run with it. I was like, how am I going to frame her within this? So I decided to put her next to this open balcony. I used to, whenever I would go onto Pinterest and I used to look for places that I thought looked really cool, I always would pin these places with like these doors opening up to a balcony. And then outside the balcony, you would see this lush greenery. I tend to draw characters in environments that are sort of related to memories that I've had, but oftentimes these are people and environments that I have not been in. So, for example, with balconies, realistically, I would not like to live in a place that has a balcony, because I'm personally scared of heights, so especially with open railings like the ones that I do in here, that would really freak me out. But in theory, like if I was very far away from the balcony, I'd probably really enjoy it. Just the view of it. I'm drawing furniture that is kind of inspired by the places that I lived in, so just kind of mixing in my personal experience with this sort of dreamscape. Well, it's not really a dreamscape, it's more like a dream as in like a fantasy of where I wished I could live a couple of years ago. And then at this point, I just was thinking about what kind of little trinkets could I put into here to add a sense of this place being lived in. Because I think that it's really nice when there's a bunch of trinkets filling your room, Especially when those trinkets aren't sort of collected from the different experiences that you've had over your lifetime. It has a very personable sense to wherever you're living. And then you get to tell stories about where you got that trinket and so on. So I was sort of tempted here for the background to draw in a bunch of greenery, but I realized I don't really know about how to draw a variety of greenery. So I just drew a building. And I also don't know how to draw buildings very well. So I was I was just kind of doing whatever. But you know what? It is what it is. Sometimes I already have jumped in to laying down the lines for a certain subject, and you just gotta stick with it. I really like these windows that are more, they're just a little taller than they are width-wise. And it's very pretty to me. It has a kind of elegant look to it. And I just like tall windows. They make things feel very grand when you're looking out of it. Because when you look out a window that isn't very tall, you're not able to see the sky. You're not able to see all these different parts of the scenery. And I feel like different kinds of windows provide different experiences, and so I always personally prefer big windows. And that's not a very controversial opinion. Like, oh, I like to look outside. Yep. I like these buildings that are kind of closely clustered together. Privacy-wise, not great, but in terms of a sense of getting to see the marks of life upon those buildings, it's nice to see over time. It makes things feel more familiar and lived in. And it makes you feel like you've also lived in that area. It makes it feel like a place that you belong to and that you've gotten to see change over time. I don't own very many picture frames, so I'm not really sure what to put within the subjects of these picture frames that I put up. So I just put up a couple of plants, a little portrait, random shapes that I hoped would look like something that would be in a picture frame. And that's pretty much it for that one. And just running off of the whole luxuriating in the sun tangent that I did for the first one, I was thinking about long baths and comfy slippers. I don't have any comfy slippers like these actually. Where I live, it's just slippers that are suited more for heat and humidity, so lots of the slippers are just to suit that purpose. Also, owning like fluffy slippers like this would probably get matted over time. Might be for the better that I don't have slippers like these. I usually draw stuff that I find cool on Pinterest, but because I think it's cool and it's slightly aspirational sometimes, it's not really stuff that I see day to day. So I tend to draw a lot of things that are different from my life. It's very much, my art has that kind of personal storytelling aspect for me. Sometimes it's like a fantasy, or it's like a memory that has a kind of fantastical spin upon it, like it's how I feel, but it's in a very different environment, conveyed to a different person. That's the nice thing about making art, though. You can just explore different worlds and lives and perspectives, but you can still, like, have a part of yourself in there, whether that's yearning for that, or it's recalling it. You can still encapsulate it within your art. Thinking about this, actually, bath mats are really... I mean, it's not a necessity, but stepping out on like a cold, hard surface is... ugh. Yeah. I really like to take walks out in the rain very often, and this is not a very good practice, because, you know, other than getting soaked, I would also you know, I would just sometimes be like, oh, you know, let me check that out, and then I step into a puddle and my shoes get absolutely soaked. And it's so uncomfortable. Like, wet socks, terrible experience. So, yeah. Having mats that soak up moisture is just so helpful. I mean, like, it's a little thing, but it's so helpful in making me feel better after I take a shower or a bath. Or after I get my feet soaked by a puddle. It's just that extra little bit of comfort that makes life feel a little gentler. I'm coming in again with that, like, harder on the outside line art. So for this next one, I decided to go back and lean on something really simple for me, which is just drawing a person, vaguely front-facing. A woman who is wearing really comfy clothes. I've always found oversized and bulky clothing to be very charming when it's styled well. I think it's very cute. I received a hat a couple of months ago that was the inspiration for this drawing here. I believe it's called a newsboy cap. Yeah, it's very poofy at the top. And hats, I find, add a lot of personality to an outfit. There are a lot of different shapes and textures and designs that can make it really visually interesting. And because the face is already, already draws a lot of attention when you draw it, it's also just really nice. It can accent the face in a very beautiful way. I really like to see people who day-to-day use all of the accessories that they have available. I used to just draw people wearing clothes from imagination, so not even things that I would wear in my wardrobe, just things that I thought people would wear. But now I like to go outside sometimes and just kind of record what people are wearing that pass me by. I almost always find some kind of new design that I didn't think about before. Like, usually it's some kind of like, sometimes a new color palette I didn't really think about. But also sometimes like a texture, or just a general piece of clothing I never really thought about. Whenever I draw from imagination though, I usually draw people wearing capelets with ribbons or very long coats, as I do in this one. I find that drawing very big ribbons is just like it's very comforting to me. Because with ribbons, ribbons aren't really strictly necessary to an outfit, but it does add such a sense of charm and intentionality. Like, you have to think, where do you want to emphasize that sense of intention? For this bit here, I just started drawing some braids, because I think that very, big chunky braids, it's very cute. It's super cute. The chunkier the better, honestly. My hair isn't long enough to do braids. I've been growing out my hair for quite a while. I cut it very, very short a couple of years ago. Like, I really want to see how long my hair can actually grow, because I've never really seen it get to that point. But yeah, chunky braids, great. Fantastic. And I felt like I was just having too many normal straight lines, so I added in some shapes. Whenever I'm trying to default and find some kind of shape to use, I usually think about the 4 different suits in a playing card deck. That's what I usually think about. I actually used it on a earlier sketchbook page, and so maybe that's why it was prominent in my mind at this time. But yeah, for this one I used a couple of spades, which also look like arrows. And then, to add just some interesting shapes, I drew a couple of leaves, because lots of leaves have really different shapes, and it's really nice whenever take a walk and you can see all the different leaves that you come across. Super interesting. And since I was already running off of the plant inspiration, and also because I just wanted to add a bit of variety to the kind of spread I had so far at this point, I decided to add in some non-human objects again, because I was running a little low on ideas. I know I wanted to only draw from imagination for this session, but I kind of defaulted and I looked at my desk and figured I would do a little study of some of the items that I had right near me. So I drew this little vase that I have that has it has fake flowers. That way, they don't die, but they can still add a pop of color into my room. It has some fake roses and a chrysanthemum, and also like this little container of bamboo that I had gotten as a gift a couple of years ago. I've always admired sketchbook spreads that mix human and non-human things on the same page. I find that the variety of shapes is really interesting, and also it's just I tend to find the non-human things that people draw are usually pretty varied from person to person, and I find that really interesting as well. Plants tend to I really like to draw plants if I have to draw something non-human, because plants comfort me. The plants on my desk comfort me as well. When I used to be very busy or I couldn't go outside very much, I would sometimes go outside and, depending on the season, I would clip off a small branch with the leaves or flowers it had, and I would put it in a small glass on my desk. It helped remind me that there's life outside, changing slowly and impatiently beyond my hurried schedule. Because time can pass very quickly for me if I don't take the time to notice those little changes in nature from day to day, and just kind of remember that the pace of the world differs depending on what you're looking at. Plants have a very different pace from the world that I would live in sometimes. Right now it's winter where I live, and it's actually a pretty healing season for me. I used to really hate it, like it felt like a never-ending cold slog, and I would always feel very sluggish and slow, and that was super frustrating because I wanted to get a lot of stuff done. But now it's like, I can respect it as a part of the growing process, and also for myself. Like, I'm not gonna get mad at the trees for being bare some parts of the year. It's just part of their nature. And also kind of part of my nature, because when it starts getting dark out, I get sleepy. And it gets dark earlier and earlier during the winter. It's nice to draw lots of things that follow the seasons for me, because it's a special time for me to connect with the cycle of the world I'm in at that moment and draw unique inspiration from what's going on that I wouldn't be able to see during other seasons of the year. Yeah, I really do love certain seasons more than others though, definitely. Like, I really like spring most, I think. Even though the pollen always gets to me and I always forget that pollen is a thing, then I have to remember that it's it's real cumbersome. But that's how the seasons go. They got their ups and downs, all of them. I'm just adding in like little accent items or things that I think, ooh, I want to add this to this little blank space I have left. So I'm adding in even more plants, because using the color green, plants are immediately the thing that I think about. Adding in some plants into the background here. And overall, I'm pretty happy with how this all turned out. I just figured that it could use a little bit more emphasis on the outside parts, because I just wanted to pop a little bit more. I want to have a little bit more clear separation of the different pieces. And all in all, it's pretty nice. I still have the whole rest of the sketchbook page. This only fills out like a third of my sketchbook page capacity, but for the first third of it, it's looking pretty promising.